Hi! Today I am going to chat a little bit about films that I can watch over and over again. I recently made a video about my 10 favourite films I watched in 2016. I regularly sort of chat a little bit about films I watch, and I think about 4 years ago I did a video that was like some of my absolute favourite films, but it's been quite a while, and although not a lot has changed, there were lots of films I hadn't talked about yet. So today I want to share with you 10 films that I could just watch forever and ever. Now, I try and do a challenge every year where I watch 100 films every year. This year I've actually cut it down to 50 because I want to spend more time reading, so I figured 50 would be a good number for films once a week. And one of my rules is that I can't count any repeats in the same year. So whenever the new year starts, I always instantly start rewatching my favorite films that I didn't watch towards the end of the year, because I wouldn't be able to count them. So loads of the films I'm gonna mention today are on that list. Also, I own the DVDs for most of these films. I know that lots of people do not like DVDs, but I have quite a nice collection. I haven't really bought any recently, but I love having the DVDs I have because I know that I can always open a drawer and find a trusty favorite instead of like scrolling through Netflix for hours and hours, which can be fun, but I like having my old DVDs. And also when I'm going through these films, I'm sure some sort of theme will emerge. There will be loads in here that you've already seen, but hopefully there will be a couple that you haven't watched yet, so you might be able to add them to your list. Film number 1 is Whip It with Ellen Page and one of my personal favorites, Drew Barrymore. This is about a girl in a small town in the US. She's a waitress and her mom really wants her to do pageants, and then one day she sees this team of roller derby girls who come into a shop and they look really cool, and she basically decides to join them and audition. Ellen Page is fantastic in it, Drew Barrymore is hilarious, Kristen Wiig is in it as well, and Drew Barrymore actually directed this. It's lovely, it has some heartbreak, it has a mother and daughter relationship, and it is just so much fun. This is one that I've definitely watched at least 10 times, which I think is probably the case for most of the films in this collection. Next up, it's one of my ultimate favorites. I'm just gonna keep saying this. It is Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Now, I know the Netflix series just came out and I watched it, thought it was alright, but this film with Jim Carrey is just so perfect. Marion and I like to quote some of his lines at each other. I feel like so much of this film is his amazing improv as well. If I don't know what to watch, I'm in the mood for something funny, then this is something I'll pick. The soundtrack of this is incredible as well, which is the same with a lot of the other films. So sometimes I just put it on in the background and I just enjoy sort of hearing it go. I love that it looks so Victorian. I have a lot of love for this film. Again, I feel like there's gonna be some choices that people won't be a fan of, but the 2005, 2006 Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley owns my heart. This film, I love Keira Knightley in this role. Beautiful, beautiful music, and whenever people ask me what my favorite film of all time is, it is this one. I must have watched this like 20 times at the very least. I love this terrible DVD blockbuster edition that I bought. Don't know why I did that. Also, I've visited loads of locations from this film. There's a couple more to go that I really want to go to, but I have been to Chatsworth House where some of this was filmed, which I'm thinking of doing a little series of like some of the locations I've visited from this film and show you some of the footage and talk through it, so let me know if that's something you're interested in. Next up, Romeo plus Juliet, Baz Luhrmann, classic. I remember the very first time I watched this, which was in like music class in high school. We would watch these like English and American films. I don't know how they got away with us watching this in class, but you know. Again, so many fantastic moments. So if you don't know this, this basically has the original Shakespeare text, but all the songs are really modern, and the setting is Verona Beach and it's these two different gangs. It's stylistically so insane, but fantastic. Also, obviously the aquarium scene where they see each other for the first time. Great. I actually went to see this with Lena in a church where they had a choir and they had like dressed it up like the church scene at the end of this film. And it was an amazing experience. Next up, I don't have the actual DVD. I don't know where it's gone. I might have to rebuy it, but this is Firefly, the TV series, and the actual film I wanted to mention is Serenity. If you haven't watched Firefly yet, this is my favorite TV show of all time, only to be followed by Gilmore Girls, I'd say. This is a space opera written by Joss Whedon. It has Nathan Fillion in it, so many amazing characters. And how I discovered this series, which only has one season unfortunately, was because I bought the film for like £2 when I was on holiday in London I don't know, like years and years and years ago. Didn't know what it was. It looked kind of like space sci-fi-y. Watched it, loved it, then a year later discovered that there was an actual TV show that comes before it. Again, I know that film so well. I had the opportunity to see it in the cinema for the first time at the Prince Charles, and I dressed up as Kaylee, who's this character, and won the costume competition. Amazing. I've dressed up as Kaylee for many, many Halloweens. Anyways, this is funny, there's action, it's like cowboys in space, pretty much. I guess it's time to hop to one that I don't have the DVD for, and it is Les Mis, and it is the new version, the sort of musical one with Anne Hathaway. It is one that I've definitely like cleaned the kitchen to or cooked to quite a lot. I'll just put it on and just sing along at the top of my voice. I do think I've also watched the older version, like maybe when I was a kid, but I love all the songs in this, and I know there's been a lot of criticism of like actors singing in this, but doesn't really make any difference to me. I've also seen the musical in London. I saw it for my birthday a year and a half ago. Love that as well. If you haven't seen this and the concept of people just singing throughout the whole film is a bit weird, just go with it. Next one is a bit weird. So for a lot of these films, I think it makes sense to watch them over and over again. The next one might be a little bit of an odd choice, and it is The Village, which is basically, technically, kind of a horror film. So it's set in this village that I don't really know how to describe, like old-timey, house on the prairie type setting, I guess, where there's a small community. One of the main characters is played by Bryce Dallas Howard, and she is this young blind woman, and one day when someone gets hurt in the village, she has to go out into the forest to go and buy medicine, but no one ever really leaves the village, and there's these creatures that are in the forest, and at some point you start to suspect that something might be up. But soundtrack of this, amazing. It is absolutely terrifying. There's this love story. I don't know why this film appealed to me so much, but I've watched it for the first time with loads of people. I keep showing it to people, and I just love watching it over and over again. Also, hilariously, the wedding scene in this film is basically like a dream wedding. So whenever people ask me like, oh, how would you want your wedding to be? I sort of say, kind of like the wedding from The Village. Black Swan. Again, also a bit of a weird, dark choice. Saw this in the cinema, was so grossed out by it. These are films that I feel like don't really need an explanation. I will put trailers to all of them in the description if you want to check some of them out. Again, it has lots of gorgeous music in it. It's quite twisted. There's bits where I definitely have to look away. Next up, more Baz Luhrmann. See, I never really knew that much about films or directors, and if people said, oh yeah, that's a typical ... like director's name film, I'd always get really confused and be like, how would you be able to recognize that, if that makes sense? For me, Baz Luhrmann was one of the first like really obvious examples. You watch two of his films, you're like, okay, I see what's going on here. I recently went to the Secret Cinema for Moulin Rouge. Such an amazing experience, and makes this film even more special now. And then finally, my love, Shakespeare in Love. I have a long history with this film. Probably watched it for the first time when I was studying Shakespeare in high school when I had to learn about the Globe, and then I've recommended it to so many students that I used to tutor that had to learn about this period. I was like, just watch this film, you'll get the gist of a lot of things that you'll need to learn. It's basically the story of young William Shakespeare trying to write Romeo and Juliet, but the story of Twelfth Night is also sort of wrapped into it. And there's also this woman from this really rich family, and all she wants to do is be an actress, which at the time there were no actresses, only actors, so she dresses up as a boy. This romance starts. Fantastic music, it is funny, it won 7 Oscars. Amazing. Alright, that was the list. It is quite a long list. I would love to hear if you have any films like this. I know a lot of people don't like rewatching things. I love rewatching, I love rereading. So I'd love to hear what your favorites are when it comes to this. And I hope this has given you a bit of an insight in my taste, whether it be for, you know, good or bad. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Doei!